Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the 19th edition of Texas Longhorns Live. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. I appreciate you guys joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, a Monday in which the football season week has officially kicked off. We are here to discuss Texas Longhorns football. Again, you can find me on X, you can find me on Twitter, right there. Please go over, give me a follow. We keep it to sports 95% of the time. If you say something stupid, I might respond with "you're stupid." I might respond with da 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 da. I'm going to have a conversation on there, a debate, a healthy debate. But if you want to do that, go over there and also come here every Monday talking Texas football, breaking down this week's game. If I get enough people in the comments, we can talk about whatever the hell you want as long as it's related to college football. So please, again, like and subscribe here. Follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it there. And we are going to get into this recruiting update. These will be getting few and far between unless someone commits, obviously, to the University of Texas. I obviously dropped a Nick Brooks commitment video, so check that out. I dropped a Jonah Williams commitment video. Very excited for his future on the 40 acres. That guy is a stud. No matter if he chooses baseball or football, he's going to be a fantastic player, whatever he decides. Could have a future at both. Who knows? But again, stay in tune and stay in touch, like and subscribe. So let's talk about this. Texas, all the way up to number 7 in the recruiting rankings. Fantastic job by Steve Sarkisian. You missed on a couple guys early. You circled back on someone like 4-star defensive tackle Josiah Sharma, who flipped over from Oregon after a month. And honestly, there might be some more flips in the cycle. Myron Charles at Florida State, Javion Hilson at Florida State, Kevin Wynn at Florida State, Dallas Wilson at Oregon, I think are the most likely 4 guys that we could flip from their current programs. I don't think DeCorian Moore flips. But let's talk about a guy that could be coming to the University of Texas this Friday, Jamie French. 5-star wide receiver. August 30th is his commitment date. Super early. But we will have a video here for you. It's going to be between Miami or Texas. For the longest time, it was believed that he did not want to stay in the state of Florida. But I told people, I begged for people to listen to me. Miami drops bags, guys. Miami pays a lot of money. And when the first thing I hear out of a kid's mouth is on the On3 recruiting event, I want a Lamborghini dealership, you do think Texas, because Texas does have that Lamborghini dealership. I believe Isaiah Bond and Michael Taft are sponsored by Lamborghini. The problem is, guys, Miami, I'm sure there's a Lamborghini dealership in Miami willing to sponsor Jamie French. So I don't know what it's going to be. I think if he values, honestly, development, he comes to the University of Texas. That's the first time in a long time I could say that and actually mean it. Miami has not been developing wide receivers lately. I'm trying to think of the last wide receiver coming out of Miami to do anything. There's no way. It's got to be Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne, Andre Johnson. I'm trying to think of like the last guy. It cannot be that far back. They have to have someone in the league right now doing something. I cannot think of them, but I think Texas stands in good position for Jamie French. I do think it ends up being either Miami or Texas. I think Tennessee has greatly fallen off here, and we'll have to see. I'm hoping it's Texas. If he goes to Texas, that gives Texas 3 5-star recruits in the class. I think there's only a couple teams in the country that could say that. So look out for that August 30th. Again, I will be here breaking it down. Next up, we have Michael Terry III. Oregon, Nebraska, and Texas are his final 3. He kind of cut out Texas A&M. Good job for him on that one. And I think Texas is finally got their pitch together of you're going to come here and be just an offensive weapon. They don't have a title for it. They're not going to say tight end. They're not going to say wide receiver. I think you're going to see him in the backfield sometimes. He could get a couple carries. He could run routes out of the backfield. He could line up, split out wide as a big tight end or a big wide receiver. This guy's got a very versatile skill set. If you go watch his tape, he just had a game where he caught a pass and basically broke a couple tackles, took it to the house. This guy's 6'3", 215 pounds. He's a freak athlete. What I love about Steve Sarkisian, he's starting to bring in these freak athletes, and they don't really have positions. They're just going to mold them into really good football players and play a versatile football and have a versatile football team. He's already talked about that. I think you're going to see a little bit of that with this team. I think as long as Sark's here, you're going to see a lot of that going forward, and Michael Terry fits that mold. I would love to have Michael Terry on this team. He could kind of take of what I think is going to be the Juan Davis role of lining him in the backfield, lining up on the line of scrimmage, chipping people, going out for routes afterwards, and then also lining up at running back and possibly taking a couple carries. He was a high school Wildcat quarterback. So I think Michael Terry kind of fits in that role as Juan Davis. He's just a very souped up version of what I think Juan Davis is going to do for this team this year. So this is a hell of a job by Texas. Steve Wiltfong did put in his crystal ball for Texas. That always bodes well, especially this late in the recruiting process. I will say Steve Wiltfong does get a little bit more praise than he deserves because he puts in constantly crazy number amounts of crystal balls. And you kind of saw that with Jonah Williams. I think he put in one for Oregon at one point. He put in one for Texas A&M at one point, I think. And then he finally put in one for Texas. But usually the closer it gets to that commitment date, which we are getting close for Michael Terry, sometime in September, I believe, end of September, he will commit to the university of his choosing. And this bodes well for Texas. The next one, I keep saying number. 4-star Madden Faramo, linebacker out of California, Texas, USC, Notre Dame. For the longest time, I thought this guy was going to go to Notre Dame. He took the visit to Texas, fell in love with Texas. He decided to postpone his commitment because I think he was supposed to be committed like 2 or 3 months ago. That bodes fantastically well for Texas. The longer this goes, the more in favor it goes for Texas. If you really wanted to go to Notre Dame, I think he would have done that by now. Could he end up going to Notre Dame? Yes. But like I said, the longer it goes, I think it goes for Texas. What I like about this recruit is this is your thumper at linebacker. We have a lot of freaks right now. Like Lance Jackson probably could play outside linebacker in a different scheme. Smith Orogbo off the edge could play linebacker. Jonathan Cunningham. They're all smaller guys other than Lance Jackson, which why I think he will just play defensive end and stay on the line of scrimmage for most of his time. But Smith Orogbo and Jonathan Cunningham could play linebacker. And I think this guy fits perfectly because those guys are more sideline to sideline or rushing the passer. This guy is thump you in the mouth, coming downhill, attacking the running backs, blowing up linemen at the line of scrimmage. So this is perfect for the SEC. So I think there's a really good chance for Texas here. We will see what happens. They also added a couple more guys, defensive line recruits, to their list of guys they had offered. So we'll see how that goes throughout the season. It's very interesting, guys. We're in a new world of college football. We'll see how it plays out with the NIL and everything. But I think Texas has started off pretty well, being the number 7 team in the 24/7 composite rankings is very good. I know Rivals has this out there as like 12 or 13, maybe even 14. Rivals is the worst recruiting service. I'm not just saying that because where they have Texas ranked, they're not good. I trust 247 and On3, I think, do the best job. So if you want to pull from On3, I don't even know what Texas is on there. Those are the two best, in my opinion. I think ESPN and Rivals do a terrible job. I would not trust them at all. I do like Orange Blitz, though. That's a controversial opinion. I like Jeff Ketchum. People are going to hate me for that. I don't care. So that is the recruiting update. We will jump into your comments and questions. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Jackson, welcome in. Thank you. No, Jackson, no need to apologize. I know you're on the Alabama show. Sorry I'm late, Matthew. I just got back from my first episode. Yes, I went and checked that out, liked it. You guys should go over there and do the same as well. Again, we're trying to grow a bigger community here on the Voice of College Football, and that starts out with all of our team channels. So go to our USC channel, our new Alabama channel, the Michigan channel. Those guys do a fantastic job over there. We're going to have giant collabs that week. So next week when we play Michigan, Tuesday and Thursday, I'll be joining those guys. We'll be simulcasting on here as well. So please go over there and check them out. So thank you guys for that. Myron Charles looking to flip to Texas. Stay tuned. Yes, I saw that as well, Vinter Santiago. I saw that as well. I saw Myron Charles, Eric Nalin from Inside Texas posted his put in his crystal ball for Myron Charles to flip. I think out of anyone, that's the most confident because there was when Josiah Sharma came to Texas and he eventually flipped at the pool party, Myron Charles was supposed to come as well. He just didn't make the visit. And I think he's teetering. I think he really is. So especially if Florida State has a bad year, Myron Charles will be a Texas Longhorn. I'm very confident saying that. And I think they'll still try to get DJ Sanders, who went to Texas A&M as well on the interior defensive line. So Texas is far from done. It's crazy because I said people were overreacting a couple months ago. I thought we'd be ranked somewhere between the 5 to 7, 5 to 8 range at the end of the season. I'm feeling more the 4 to 6 range now. I think we'll get bumped up there. I think a top 3 class, unless you flip like multiple guys, like 3 to 4 guys, probably isn't going to happen. But I think a top 6 class for Texas definitely could happen. Vinter Santiago. Yes, Florida State looked bad in the trenches where it matters. I actually think DJU is getting a little bit too much hate. DJU is exactly who you thought he was. He did exactly in that game what I thought he was going to do. They don't have the wide receivers that they had last year. Their offensive line is okay. It's not great. And then their defensive line, which, by the way, is total BS. And I said this the second drive into the game. After Pete Thamel said that on ESPN College Game Day, I wiped my head because, guys, I just don't understand how you think Florida State had the best defensive line in the country. That's a joke to me. I've ranked every defensive line in the SEC. There's 4 to 5 defensive lines in the SEC I would take over Florida State. I would take Kentucky's. I would take Georgia. I would take Tennessee's. All of those guys have higher end prospects on their line. I mean, Walker from Kentucky, Michael Williams from Georgia, James Pierce from Tennessee. It is a joke that Pete Thamel put that out of his mouth. John should have been pissed off because Michigan has a far better defensive line than Florida State. It was a joke when I heard that. I don't think Florida State has a top 10 defensive line in the country. People are going to say it's crazy stuff about that to me. I don't care. They're not a top 10 defensive line. I didn't think that going into the season. When I heard it, I thought it was crazy. Then I watched it. No chance that's a top defensive line and top 10 defensive line in college football. It definitely ain't the best. I don't know what Pete Thamel's doing over there. I like him overall as a reporter, but I don't trust scouts this early in the process. I really don't. I've heard and seen scouts say really stupid stuff after a couple games. The one that there's a couple that stick out to me, if anyone can remember this. Matt Barkley, I believe, couldn't or decided not to come out in the same draft class as RG3 and Andrew Luck. There was scouts, real scouts were saying he was just as good as them, if not better. Matt Barkley the next year, I believe, got drafted in the 4th round. I don't even think he's in the league anymore. So, yes, NFL scouts are wrong all the time. I'm trying to think who else was like that. Oh, I just saw a picture today. Mike Fafita or something like that from Miami was supposed to be like the 1st or 2nd pick in the NFL draft, and then he was terrible after that. This was the year before he actually could go into the NFL. It's just mind-numbing, some of the stuff these NFL scouts say. I don't even trust them till we're in the actual process. Like when they get to evaluate them at the combine, talk to them, and the tape, then I'll go with your opinion. Until then, I really don't trust you because most of you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I hope USC lights up LSU's defense this weekend. Might help us with recruiting. Yeah, I think it's going to be – I don't think Cade Phillips flips back to Texas. Usually that's a hard wall to break there, Victor. Usually when someone flips from you, it's really hard to get them back, so I don't see him coming back. I think Aiden Anning might be a potential flip, but I think Cade Phillips is pretty solidly over there. And I think it's just hard for Aiden Anning being from Louisiana. Yes, he didn't get the love he should have early on from LSU, but it's hard to turn them down because that's like the one state that brainwashes their high school recruits, guys. They have the same colors as LSU. They call themselves the Tigers. The whole state roots for LSU because there's no other really big programs. So and by the way, that kid only got a Louisiana Tech recruit. See, if that's me, I'm like, really? You're jumping on board now after every other big program is? I personally wouldn't have gone there, but it's hard when you're so in love with LSU. You've been raised up in that. You love it to want to not to go there, basically. So I understand why he went, but it's hard for me to see that personally. I would have taken it as disrespect, but that's I guess that says more about me than anything. Okay, so that was the recruiting update, guys. So we do have a couple things to talk about first. Before we get into Colorado State previews, predictions, all of that, we're going to talk about this. This is just broken. Thank you to TJ for setting this up. Catch Texas Live on your favorite audio platform, whether that be, I use Spotify. You can check us over there on Spotify. You can check us over there on Apple Music. You can check us over there on any of those there, guys. So please check us out there. I'll provide the link next time. That is on me. Next up, we need to get the video settled because right now, if I jump out and go to the video, it's on Mark's thing. It is not currently in here. I would love to show this to you, but instead I can read it to you. We have a new $99 tier on the Voice of College Football Patreon. And basically you get Steve Merrill's predictions, who does a great job in his predictions, betting-wise. You get Mark's predictions. You get Steve Dace's prediction over there from the Michigan podcast. You get Matt Zemek's prediction, who is on the Voice of College Football for the USC channel. So please go over there, Patreon.com in the description. New $99 here. If you were to bet $100, guys, $100 on every college football game that they would have given you last year, you would have made $7,300. Think about that. You would have made $7,300. Those guys do a fantastic job over there. And even if you don't want to do that, there's all these other tiers. You can have great hangouts, great discussions with every member of the Voice of College Football on patreon.com. So I really appreciate you guys for doing that. And then also, Mark has a brand new show at 10 a.m., guys. At 10 a.m., Mark has a new show. Please go over there and check that out as well. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. He's talking college football with you guys. If you guys give him some money, some super chats, that will get bumped up to 2 hours. He will stay as long as you guys are willing to provide some monetary value over there. So please go over there and do that. He does a great job. I check it out when I can. And for there's also a lot of shows. We're here every Saturday night on the Voice of College Football, talking football. He's going to have a show Sunday morning for the people that can't stay up Saturday night, and he'll talk with them there on Sunday morning at the Voice of College Football. So please go and check that out. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for being here. Now, let's get into Colorado State. And guys, if I had to give you a team that they resemble out of the conference we just left, the old Texas Tech team with Cliff Kingsbury, Mike Leach type system, they want to air the crap out of the football. They don't run the football. For example, I'll just throw this in here, getting a little bit ahead of my skis. They bring their second leading rusher back from last year. He had 311 yards rushing. I believe the first leading rusher is gone. He rushed for 390 yards. They don't run the football. So they are going to air it out. And I actually kind of like this. It gets your secondary ready. And guess what? That second week versus Michigan, we'll know if the front seven's ready. So back-to-back weeks, you're going to get one side of your back four, back seven tested, and then your front seven tested versus Michigan. So overall, good way to start the season. Let's jump into Colorado State. 5-7 last year for the Rams. 3-5 overall in the Mountain West Conference, 26.1 points per game. They were 76th in the country on that side of the ball. They allowed 29.6 points per game, which is 98 out of 133 teams. And when we get to that side of the ball, it's pretty grim. But again, the offense. So last year, here we go, 91.1 yards per game rushing last year, 123rd in the country. Guys, there's 133 FBS teams that this was taken out of last year. They're in the bottom of 11. That is bad. They get 3.3 yards per rush, 116th in the country. Again, abysmal. Now the passing game, 291.3 yards per game, 17th in the country. Yards per attempt, 6.9, so 80th in the country. So honestly, they're really not attacking downfield very often. And when they do, they're not doing it successfully. This is very much an efficient style offense. Completion rate was 60.81%, 67th in the country. Now, let's get into the position players. Brandon Fowler Nicolosi. I watched this guy play versus Colorado, and I was impressed. I didn't know much about Colorado State at all, and they had a lot of guys stand out to me. A couple of those guys transferred. A couple of the guys went in the NFL draft. This guy stuck around. There were reports he was offered $600,000. I'm not sure I believe that because, no offense, I'm not sticking around at Colorado State. I know it's beautiful. Colorado State's beautiful. I don't know if anyone's ever been to Colorado Springs. Beautiful, beautiful place. Probably one of the 10 to 15 most beautiful places in the country. I'm not sticking around for $600,000. If Kansas State's offering me that, I'm going to Kansas State. And Kansas State, why are you offering this guy when I think Avery Johnson can be just as good as this guy? 62.1% completion percentage, 3,460 yards, 7.4 yards per attempt, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 132.6 passer rating. He needs to take care of the football better. If Colorado State wants any chance in this game, he has to take care of the football better. He does scramble a bit. He's athletic. I will say the last time I saw him, skinny frame. He needs to put weight on his frame. I think he's an NFL player as he progresses. I don't know if he doesn't put on weight, he's not. He's got to put on weight. He's very skinny. You know what he kind of reminds me of body type wise? Colin Kaepernick at Nevada. He's a better passer than Colin Kaepernick, not as good of a scrambler, but that's who he reminds me of. As mentioned before, Justin Marshall's their second leading returning rusher, and he will be the main rusher this year. 57 attempts, 311 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 23 yards receiving. So they just don't use the running backs at all, whether that be in the passing game or the running game. A lot like Mike Leach, he just refused to use his running backs in any scenario. They will use this guy because this guy might be the best wide receiver we play all year. I'm trying to think. Georgia doesn't have a guy as good as this. Michigan doesn't have a guy as good as this. Oklahoma, maybe with Deion Burks and Nick Anderson. By the way, Nick Anderson listed as an or for Oklahoma shocked me. If Brennan Thompson takes his job, I'm completely off the Nick Anderson train, but I thought he was good last year. But Torrey Horton is an NFL guy. I think he's a second-round draft pick. I don't think he gets up into the first round, but I think he's a second-round guy. 96 catches, 1,136 yards, and 11.8 yards per catch. I'm very interested to see how Texas defends him. Do they mirror him with Malik Muhammad all over the field? Do they give Jadavier and Gavin Holmes that responsibility when he lines up on the other side? We will see. I don't know how they attack that. I don't know how Colorado State uses to attack him. Will they put him in motion a lot? We will see. It's going to be very interesting. Hell of a player. They also bring back Dylan Goffney with 23 receptions, 298 yards, and 13 yards per catch with 2 touchdowns. And they bring over transfer wide receiver. I was a big fan of this guy because I talked about Cincinnati last year because they were in the Big 12. Donovan Ollie from Washington State had like 800 yards 2 years ago at Washington State. He fell off at Cincinnati last year. We'll see if he can get it back together in this offense in Jay Norvell with the Colorado State Rams. We will have to see, but I'm a fan of him. I think he can be an NFL wide receiver. I'm not saying he's Torrey Horton because I think Torrey Horton's a second-round pick. I think he's more of a 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick, but I think he's an NFL guy for sure. They do lose their second leading receiver in Dallin Hooker. He was at tight end. He had over 700 yards receiving last year. I'm glad he's gone. He's a real threat, and we kind of struggled with the tight end last year. I don't think that'll be the case this year because Anthony Hill has that responsibility or Maurice Blackwell if he's healthy, and I trust those guys in pass coverage versus a tight end. Most tight ends, week 2, we'll have to discuss that, John, because I don't know if I trust him versus that tight end, but we'll have to see. They do have first team Mountain West Conference preseason Jacob Gardner at the center position, and they do replace that tight end with Peter Mortini. He didn't do much last year, though. 3 receptions, 21 yards. I like the interior of this offensive line. Tanner Morley, Jacob Gardner, and Drew Moss are good players. I think they have a chance to go to the next level. Savion Henderson, decent player. We'll see how he holds up. Aaron Karras, okay player. We'll see how he holds up. The interior is actually pretty good here. So I kind of like the test for Texas interior defensive line versus their interior of their offensive line because it is their strength on the offensive line. So if we're constantly blowing them up on the interior of the offensive line, guys, that is a good thing for Texas defensive line. This is a decent middle of the road interior of offensive line, college football wise. The edges are questionable. If Trey Moore is just killing them, listen, do I think Trey Moore's going to have a great year? But they're not the greatest. So I wouldn't take too much away for that. I will take away if we do kill him on the interior. Now I'll get to your comments, and then we will talk about their defense, which is not much to write home about. Myron Charles, who? I don't know what that question is. Rob, I don't know if you're joking. Myron Charles is a current defensive lineman commit for Florida State. I think it could flip to Texas. But yes, so let me take a drink first, then we'll get back to Colorado State. Okay, so Colorado State, we just covered the offense. Let's cover the defense here. Not very good, guys. They were 90th in the country in rushing yards per game, given up 166.3. They were 52nd in yards per rush, so they were better versus that. Overall, they were terrible, but versus the rush, slightly above average at 4.1 yards per rush, which ranked 52nd in the country. Their passing defense allowed 72.19% completion percentage. Anyone want to take a guess how bad that is? 72%? 72%. That is god-awful, guys. That is last in the country. 72% last year is last. Total passing yards allowed per game, 255.5, 111th in the country. I actually think Texas was similar in the yards per game allowed here. They were just much more efficient in defending it. First off, they put up stats on you somewhat in the rushing game, and then you're terrible on the back end in the receiving or stopping the receiving game. They allowed a passer rating of 150.7. That is 115th in the country. And then opponent yards per play, 98th in the country. This defense is not good. They also allowed I already went over that. So just not a good defense whatsoever. Texas, to me, if we're not efficient offensively, that's not a good thing. We have to be efficient in this game attacking this defense. They lack the personnel to be able to stop you. Their safeties are really good. The cornerbacks are below average. They lost, by the way, their Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. Muhammad Kamara is in the NFL now. He had 13 sacks last year. So think about that. You had the Defensive Player of the Year on your defensive line. That should help you in the pass game and the run game, and they were terrible, and you lose that guy. Efficiency. That I don't care about hitting big plays, honestly, versus this team, because I think I know what they're going to do. They're going to try to keep things in front of them. I need to see efficiency. If Quinn Ewers has anything less than 68% completion percentage versus this team, it's a failure, in my opinion. This is not a good defense. It's not. We should maul them at the line of attack, at the point of attack. We should be efficient when we do throw, and we should be able to get 7 to 10 yards per completion pretty damn easily. So that's my takeaway on Colorado State's defense. They do have they have their top 4 leading tacklers back, or they have all 4 of their top leading tacklers back. Or sorry, 3 out of 4. Sorry again. Chase Wilson, very good player. He was second on the team in tackles last year. He's a first-team Mountain West Conference player preseason at the linebacker position. They bring in Henry Blackburn, who I don't know if anyone remembers this. He's the guy that hit Travis Hunter. He's a good player, though. He was their 4th leading tackler. And then their best player, in my opinion, is their other safety in Jack Howell, first-team Mountain West Conference preseason. Their leading tackler with 114 tackles. The problem with that, guys, you never want your safeties to be your leading tacklers, ever, unless they're playing in the box. That's the only exception. If they're back there in pass protection, that means you're getting beat deep, or you're allowing your front 2 levels of defense to get beat, and they run back there, and they have to make the tackle. They're the last line of defense. That is terrible by Colorado State. Like I said, I need to see efficiency out of this Texas offense. Listen, Colorado State's probably going to put up points in this game. We should put up at least 38 points. That should be the minimum, because I do think we're going to experiment with some things. Sark has already talked about that, and we're going to get into your comments, and then we'll get into what Steve Sarkisian had to say about this game, and then we're going to get my total opinions on this game and my prediction as well. Rob Midfield, yeah, no problem. I'm here to help you guys out with any of that. Obviously, yes, Myron Charles at Florida State could be flipping to Texas. We'll see. I think there's a chance, pretty damn good chance. We should be able to move the ball up and down the field against Colorado State. Yes. What I think they're going to do is just going to keep everything in front of them. So I need to see efficiency in the run game and the pass game. We should run, I'm thinking, for over 5.5 yards per carry. And I would love to see Quinn's passing yards per attempt to be around the 9 to 10 mark. I think that's where he should be at, with like a 68% completion percentage or higher. 100%. Victor, we talked about this in the preseason preview in the offseason with the Michigan guys. This is going to be very vanilla. We're going to rotate a lot of players, but still, our backups would be good enough to win this game by 2+ touchdowns. So let's see what happens. He has to when his QB is slow and read and react. Yeah, I don't think that's why we're going to keep things vanilla. We didn't keep things vanilla versus Alabama. I see where you're coming from. I would say that's more on, I would say somewhat on Quinn's vision to be able to see stuff, but also he has great anticipation. So I think that's only the case sometimes. I think a lot of the case, most of the time, guys, is confidence. And I think you've seen Quinn become more confident off the field, which will translate to him being more confident on the field, because he would see things sometimes, but he wouldn't pull the trigger on it. So I think that's more confidence than anything. So let's get into what Sark says, and then we'll get into my thoughts. So Sark wants to see no self-inflicted wounds in this game, and I completely agree. When you are playing a inferior team, which Colorado State is, do not shoot yourself in the foot and give them opportunities to beat you. Do I think even if we shot ourselves in the foot, they could beat us? Absolutely not. But still, you don't want that. You're building habits going through the season. Let's start out strong. No false starts. No. By the way, Jake Majors does this. Snap infractions. I don't want to see that shit. You're a senior. He shouldn't have been. I think he did it once or twice last year. That needs to be gone. Jumping off. You know what? That's the one I don't care about. You want to jump off sides to get a pass rush. It's going to happen once or twice if you're a great pass rusher. I saw Von Miller do it for the Broncos a lot. Guess what? I can live with that. But no false starts. No face mask, stupid penalties, holding. Just don't do any of that stuff. You're playing an inferior team. You should treat them as an inferior team. You should beat them down and beat them at the line of attack. And no false starts, none of that stupid stuff. If you were in the two deep, you will play in the first half. Sark talked about this. We played 32 or 33 guys on the defensive side of the ball versus Rice in the first game. I actually expect that to go up. I'm thinking 35, 36 guys versus Colorado State. And I think you're going to see a lot of guys on offense. He basically said he wouldn't shot. Someone asked him, will Arch Manning play in the first half? I think if we're up by 3+ touchdowns, you'll see Arch Manning go out the first series. And I have no issue with that. Again, Sark has talked about this is a long season in college football. You need a true 44 guys and not a true 22 guys. So I think you're going to see a lot of backups play in this game, even if it's a little bit closer than people think. I think the closest I could see this game being late is like 17 points, which would it be disappointing? Yes. I was disappointed in the Rice outing last year, and we beat Alabama week 2. So again, I'm not going to take a lot from this game. When we get into my thoughts, I'll explain that. And then someone asked him, how is your run game going to change because of the running backs that are out? And he said, no, we're going to run in between the tackles. And I try to tell people he's not going to change his offense. Jaden Blue can run in between the tackles. Jaden Blue is not some 170-pound back. I believe he weighs in at 205, 210 pounds, and he's 6 foot. And he was the number 1 ranked running back recruit, 2 to 3 years ago when he came out, until he decided to sit out a senior. Then he dropped to 4th or 5th. But this guy's supremely talented. He's a great pass catcher. He was decent in run blocking grade. He was actually had a better run blocking or pass blocking grade than Cedric Baxter when in the backfield pass protecting. So I think he'll be fine. Can we sustain another injury there? Absolutely not. We're super thin. We just brought in that guy from SMU last year, Velshon or Belton Gardner. So he'll be our 4th string running back. I do think at the end of the year, Jarrett Gibson will take most of the 2nd string running back reps, because I think Trey Wisner, no offense to him, is more of a scat back. I don't think he would last, honestly, if he got the second amount of reps at running back. But I do trust in Jaden Blue. And then he said, be better on 1st and 2nd downs to get to easier 3rd downs. And I completely agree with this. We want to stay in the 3 to 4, or 3rd and 4 to 3rd and 5 at most range. We weren't terrible at 3rd down last year. We were okay. We were like middle of the road, but we need to get better there. The one other thing we definitely need to get better on, guys, is in the red zone. We scored like 80-point-something% of our possessions in the red zone. We ranked 89th in the country in that. Anyone want to know what Iowa was ranked in the country in red zone scoring, like percentage-wise? 90th. We were 1 spot ahead of Iowa, but we ranked 15th in the country in scoring. If we can just go back to 2 years ago, where I believe we were in the 20s or 30s, or no, sorry, we were in the late teens, early 20s, and then 3 years ago, we were in the 30s. If we can be like, honestly, 20 to 40 range, this is a top 10 offense easily. So that's another aspect I want to see them get better at. And that leads into my keys or thoughts for the game, guys. So again, I want to see efficiency. I don't need to see big plays down the field. But when you do take the shots down the field, I need you to hit them. When I see Quinn is great at this. Quinn is great in the intermediate and short passing game. I want you to be efficient at that, just like you always are. Nothing needs to change there. So efficiency in the passing game, efficiency in the running game. I want to see who takes the field the majority of snaps at the 2nd cornerback position. And I would love to see our 2nd cornerback, honestly, put up against Torrey Horton for Colorado State to get them ready. It's going to be interesting. It's probably either going to be Jahdae Barron or Gavin Holmes. Would not shock me if they completely split reps here. And then it wouldn't shock me if we see Warren Roberson or Kobe Black get some playing time as well. But I think those guys, the majority of snaps, honestly, at that position need to go to Jahdae Barron or Gavin Holmes, especially to Jahdae Barron. It's a new position for him. Nickelback is completely different than an outside cornerback. I'm excited to see Jalen Gilbo play in this game as well. I cannot wait to see. I want to see the NASCAR package a lot in this game, because guess what? You're playing against a team that's not super efficient at all, and they love to pass the ball. I want to see you get them to 3rd and 7+ and put out Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Ethan Burke, all those, Anthony Hill, and rush the passer. I want to see it. I'm going to love that when I see it, because those guys are going to be able to get the quarterback pretty effortlessly. And I want to see us be able to keep the ball in front of us. Last year, teams destroyed us with the downfield passing game. I don't have to point to any other game than the Washington game. That was consistently our cornerbacks getting beat one-on-one on an island. Were they there? Yes, they were. The problem is they never turned their head around and never played the ball. Now, it will help that we actually have 2 true cornerbacks playing at the position this year, whereas Ryan Watts, I told you guys, was a safety playing corner. And guess what? He's a safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Terrence Brooks is now at Illinois. when he does go to the NFL, because I think he's talented enough to go to the NFL, he's going to be a safety too. So we have two safeties playing cornerback. We're much more athletic there. I want to see the athleticism on display in the back end in this game, because guess what? They're going to throw it around, and I want to see us running the football, make tackles, and I want to see us to make plays on the football. I shouldn't say this. I'm not going to say it. I will do something crazy if we actually play the ball while it's in the air versus an elite wide receiver like Torrey Holton. If we're in phase, turn around and knock the ball down, I'll go crazy, guys, more than I should versus the Colorado State team. But that's something we have not done here at Texas for a very long time. I do think we keep this rather vanilla. I think we rotate a lot of guys, but I do think it's very important for Steve Sarkisian to get guys confidence up high. Like our wide receivers, I would like us to rotate the 6, obviously, but I want a firm grasp going to the Michigan game who our main 3 is. Maybe not. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and throughout the season, it's just going to be 6 guys. But Sark has yet to do that, so I'd love to get a grasp on who it is going to the Michigan game at the wide receiver position are the main 3 guys, but we'll have to see about that. So we will finally get into my predictions here, guys. I don't have Texas covering here. 48-17. I think Colorado State doesn't really score that much in the first half. I think if they score most of their points in the second half, could be completely wrong here when we're rotating more. But I do think Texas wins 48-17. That's 31 points. I believe the spread is 32.5. I would take Colorado State personally, but I could be wrong. I don't know. That's such a tight spread, and I don't love big numbers. I personally wouldn't bet it, but if you're going to force me to, I would bet Colorado State here, just like I would have taken Rice last year, and I think I would have won that bet because Texas is going to come out vanilla. They've been game planning for Michigan. No matter what Sark says, he's been spending most of his time on Michigan, game planning for that game. I think it's very vanilla. I think it's very basic. I think you're going to see a lot of guys play, and I think you're going to see some exciting stuff out of the guys that do play, especially the second and third stringers or second and third stringers, because I think there's very little difference at certain positions between first and second string. There's definitely drop-off from second to third string. We're not Georgia in that aspect, where I do agree with Mark 1 through 100. Georgia's probably the most talented team, but I would put Texas top 40 versus anyone in the country. I really would. So it's going to be interesting to see those guys play. Texas 20. Man, we're not even in Michigan week, and Moose is already making predictions. Michigan is not scoring 38 points. I will bet you money, Moose, if you want to do that. We hardly cover. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we cover here, Victor, and we rarely do. I want to see Arch Manning play meaningful snaps. I think Arch Manning will play meaningful snaps. When Sark was asked that question about will he play in the first half and didn't really answer it, I think Arch Manning probably comes in for a series. Like, let's say Texas, their first 2 drives goes down and scores, and Colorado State doesn't score. I think Arch Manning comes in that game. Moose, your offense isn't good either. You have a quarterback that completed 50% of his passes in high school. I'm going to deep dive into that because I have a feeling the numbers will tell the tale on that. I'm going to go back and look from last year in high school to first year in college, how much of a progress you can actually make. I don't think Alec Gorgie completes more than 57% of his passes. That's fine. I will keep thinking that. Let's see. Rob Freeman, you think yours is slow to read? I think it's partially on certain things. Rob, he's slow to read things. But again, I think it's a confidence thing. You can see that off the field getting better, and you've seen it on the field get better. I think it's going to be way better this year. That's why I predicted Texas to go 11-1. That's why my prediction is the way it is. If Quinn Ewers is the exact same guy that he is last year, Texas is probably a 9-3 football team. I think if he takes that next step, which I believe he will, and Mark has talked about this too, there's really no elite quarterbacks. If Quinn Ewers can take that next step into an elite quarterback, the ceiling for Texas is up there to win a national championship. It really is. Screenshot of the score at this. Orgy might not even be the starter, but that's the thing too. So it's a first start for someone coming in because Jack Tuttle, and that's the thing, he doesn't scare me either. None of the quarterbacks at Michigan scare me. Their defense is what scares me. So that's 38 is just crazy. Can Michigan win the game? Absolutely, they can win the game. They're not scoring 38 points unless their defense scores 14 points. I agree. Thank you, Ed, for that. Ed B, it's nice to see. See, we get football season. We get people coming back in here. I really appreciate it, guys. Please, again, hit that like button, subscribe. Every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I will be here breaking down this week's game. I'm going to be here Saturday after the game. And speaking of Moose will probably be calling in next Thursday when I'm with the Michigan boys on the Michigan and Texas channel on Thursday of next week, and Tuesday of next week, we will be breaking down the Michigan game. I will be here for any breaking news. You will see me Friday, hopefully, for Jamie French's recruitment video. I will put that out there. So please, again, hit that like button, subscribe, share this out with your friends, family, whoever you want to be. I really appreciate you guys being here. Again, 48-17 for Texas. We'll go with the Moose real quick. Texas fans, do you really think you can beat Michigan at home 22-0 with 2 running backs put out? Moose, we broke Alabama's win streak at home. And running back is literally the least important position on a football field. We had a quarterback at one point, I believe you know his name, Roschon Johnson, go from quarterback to running back, and he's running with the Chicago Bears. If it was any other position, I would freak out. Running back is by far the easiest position to transition to from high school to college, and for any position player to transfer to or transition to. Again, I forgot to mention this. Ryan Niblett, wide receiver, changed his number. He is number 21 now. That's a running back number. I think Ryan Niblett gets some carries in this Colorado State game. He played running back in high school. Juan Davis was a Wildcat quarterback in high school. You're going to see a lot of guys play running back for Texas in the first game. I really believe it. I think there's probably going to be 5 or 6 guys that get a carry. You're going to see Colin Page, the walk-on, get carries. And by the way, Jarrett Gibson was the 4th-ranked running back coming out of high school and is 5'10", 210 pounds. He's built like a tank. Yes, Moose, we'll be fine there. I'm not that worried about it. By the way, I said this 3 months ago. If I said Jaden Blue should be the starter anyway. So guess what? We get to see him now in a full-time role. We'll see how it goes. But again, I don't think Michigan can't win that game. I just don't think 38-24 is a little crazy. I'm trying to think when's the last time Michigan scored 38 points versus a top 10 ranked football team. Ohio State probably is my guess. That's my guess. I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't be able to run regardless. Exactly. But now you definitely ain't running. Also, don't forget Michigan will be good against the pass. Also, Texas can be one-dimensional against a run D. First off, so I'm going to point to – see, no, we're done. I'm not giving any away my secrets because you'll have to tune in for that. So, again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Thank you for your comments, questions, and concerns. This has been the 19th edition of Texas Longhorns Here Live. Again, you can find us at Spotify or Apple. Type in the voice of college football. We will come up. Type in Texas. We'll definitely come up. And also, if you're going to bet, go to patreon.com. Sign up for the $99 a month thing they have going on over there with Steve Merrill, Steve Dace, Mark, and those guys. They were plus $7,300 on bets of $100, or if you bet $100 on every game. So go and check out that in the description. I really appreciate you guys being here. I'll leave you with my prediction. Texas, 48. Colorado State, 17. Football season is back, baby. 48-17. Friday, I will be here. Jamie French will be at Texas Longhorns, and you guys better be joining me. Hook 'em, guys.